Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today's show is 2785. Nobody has produced more content than me over the years. Nobody. And maybe it's time for me to find a new occupation. We're going to be talking about something very important, something near and dear to my heart. If you're an older dude like me, testosterone replacement is an interesting topic. And there's lots of opinions. And like my dad used to say, opinions are like a-holes. Everybody's got one, and most of them stink. But we have some good research from a scientist that's been studying testosterone in men for a really long time, Dr. Bashin. He originally did a study probably 8-9 years ago that changed the opinions of superphysiological doses of testosterone. He took men and put them on 600 milligrams a week for 6 months and proved that there were no markers of anything horrible happening to them. In fact, they felt stronger and they slept better and all sorts of good things like that. And that was a game changer for most of us out there who were already dabbling in anabolics for different types of sports and performance. Before we get started, of course, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods. I'm going to make this announcement later in the show, because I'm surprised we get people complying with this for free stuff, but not nearly as many people as I thought we would get. And I don't know if people don't hear the message because I do it at the beginning of the show, or they don't like free stuff. Legendary Foods has created something called a tasty pastry. It started out to be an alternative to a Pop-Tart, which is packaged garbage. It's become so much more because the flavor of the tasty pastry is amazing. You will think you're eating real pastry, but it has less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high quality protein, as a rule, under 5 grams of net carbs. Kids love them. Adults love them. They're delicious, and they're an alternative to a protein bar. Obviously, they taste more dessert-like than a protein bar. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10, you'll save 10% off your taste. While you're there, look around, because Legendary Food makes some amazing seasoned almonds and flavored nut butters, all with very little to no sugar, which is a big deal to me because I don't really like sugar. I try to stay away from it as often as possible. Now, this is the surprising part. Every show we do, we hide a secret word during the commercial break. And when you hear that secret word, if you write it down into an email along with your mailing address and send it to onair@superhumanradio.net, Legendary Food will send you a care package of goodies that will shock the SH out of you. We have so many people who have received them and couldn't believe what they got. Like this guy. Are you effing serious? I was expecting a box of tasty pastries, but what I got was amazing. I'm beyond ecstatic, and thank you to Ron Penna's generosity. This parent says his 2 daughters, Lucy and Izzy, unboxed and loved the tasty pastries, and now they have them every morning for breakfast, and they think they're eating crap like the rest of their friends, but they're not. This guy here, who clearly is a big muscular dude. Said, thanks again, man. And he's holding the box up. You'll get a free box of so many different things, including tasty pastry. And all you have to do is listen during the commercial break for the secret word, type it down into onair@superhumanradio.net and email it to me. Include your mailing address, please. I'm not going to email you back and ask you to do that. And you'll get a free box from Legendary Foods that will knock your socks off. So take advantage of that when you can. And now, without further delay, I'll bring my guest on. Many of you know him already. His name is Daniel Bossa. And how you doing, Danny?
Doing pretty good, Carl. How about you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Awesome.
So Danny has been investigating testosterone quite selfishly. His journey started like mine. He wanted information. He wanted to change his life. Talk a little bit. Maybe people don't know your beginnings. Talk about it.
Yeah. Try to make it a bridge because it's kind of long. But in the bridge version is I suffered from low T symptoms. At the time, I didn't even know what testosterone was, what it did. I mean, I had heard of it. I knew that bodybuilders took it to get big in the gym. That's pretty much the extent of what I knew. Went to a number of doctors in the area trying to figure out why I felt the way I did. You know, the typical, erectile dysfunction off and on, low libido, couldn't put on any muscle mass. I was putting on fat in weird spots and getting the man boobs and just felt kind of frail and weak and wasn't sleeping and anxiety and brain fog, like the whole gamut of symptoms. They were trying to give me antidepressants, which at one point they didn't do anything because I wasn't depressed. They gave me Cialis to try. Again, Cialis, if you've got low testosterone, you're like that, but without the drive, kind of doesn't really help things along. And being a problem solver by trade, funny enough, I own an IT consulting company, and IT constantly having to solve problems and puzzles. That's what I do best, is solving problems. Because the doctors in the area couldn't help, I took it upon myself to learn as much on this subject as I could. Did a lot of experimenting, a lot of trial and error, started getting into Facebook groups. And as I was learning, I started becoming friends with a lot of physicians, and then the conversations were coming out of the forums, and we were discussing by phone with a lot of different physicians what was working for them, what they'd done in the past, what was working with their patients, what wasn't working with their patients, getting taught a lot of the biology that they were learning in school. So I got kind of fast-tracked down that path of learning more so than most, and started just spending a lot of time, once I got my own issues figured out, spending a lot of time just kind of giving back to guys in need of help, because back when I had those issues, I wasn't really getting the help I needed. And I put myself, in the shoes of some of these guys, because was in the same situation as them. A lot of these things I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies. And I spent kind of a big chunk of my day just answering emails, answering private messages, commenting on posts. But again, there's a lot of physicians that are.
So you basically became a clearinghouse of information, is what happens, right?
Correct. Yeah.
What I find most humorous is something you said off the air that I've heard for 16 years now. But you're not a doctor.
Nope.
And the implication is you're not a doctor, so you can't learn.
Of course not. No.
Like, the difference between a doctor and you or I is the education, the books they've read, the lessons they've had. So if you focus on one niche area and you read all the books and the studies and and the big words you look up, I learned a new word today, autophagy, and you somehow, because you don't have the letters after your name, you're not eligible to have an opinion in this discussion.
Yeah.
And the reality is, the reason doctors get it wrong more often than people who are autodidacts, who teach themselves these things, is they have to defend an industry that has indoctrinated them, which is Big Pharma. Big Pharma pays for the labs. Big Pharma pays for the teachers' continuous learning degrees and stuff on. Big Pharma, because I was going to school to be an optometrist. I remember Bausch & Lomb came in. They put our whole lab together for free. Bausch & Lomb sent doctors in to train us on how to fit Bausch & Lomb contact lenses. So when you got out of school, what'd you order? Oh, I need Bausch & Lomb. I know how to do a B&L U4. Give me those. So you have to understand something. that there's a small niche of doctors that are free thinkers, but the majority of them will defend the stupid stuff that's going on. Look at look what we just went through with this friggin' epidemic, this pandemic. Doctors, no, ivermectin is bad because someone told me, but the science shows it's good. We have whole countries curing their pandemic with ivermectin, but no, we can't use it because they have been indoctrinated and corrupted. Unfortunately, when I use the word corruption, I don't mean like they're stealing money. Corrupted mentally, intellectually. They will not look at anything that doesn't fit what they have been told. And
Absolutely.
that's sad because there's a lot of doctors out there that are brilliant if they unlocked from doctrine. So when people say to you, oh, well, you're not a doctor, I often go back and say, and that's why you should believe me, because I'm not being influenced by Big Pharma to tell you something that isn't true.
Absolutely. Here's a really simple analogy for anyone saying, well, they're not doctors. Why are they talking about that? Okay, I got a pen here. I'm going to drop the pen. It's called gravity. I learned that. Did you learn that? Gravity?
Yeah.
Right? Are you a physicist?
No.
No. So how would you know this is gravity?
Because I learned it.
The interesting thing with this hormone replacement therapy stuff, doctors tell me straight out, we do not learn this in school. We spend about 5 minutes going over basic hormones and how they work and whatever else. It's a very, very tiny fraction of what they learn. Now, if you take guys that spend years delving into the studies and the literature, talking to physicians, whatever, we're going to learn more than the typical physician, especially the typical physician who doesn't do this for his own practice. We will learn more. But then we still get accused, yeah, but you can't because you're not a doctor. Well, doctors don't learn this in medical school. They either learn it through colleagues or they'll learn it for leaving studies, or they're going to learn it for guys like me that have just learned a ton of it. Now, do I know everything about cancer and about this? And no, I learned a specific niche in depth. The rest, I don't claim to know anything. I know a little bit about it. But to say that you need to have letters or have a certification to speak about anything is silly, especially when, I'll bring this up later on, I do a lot of work for a YouTube channel called TRT and Hormone Optimization. There's a Facebook group as well. I've interviewed dozens of physicians. When the physicians speak, no one says anything. If I do another video where I repeat exactly what the physician says and just dumb it down in basic, simple English, which is the way I like to communicate, I'll then be told, well, you're not allowed to talk about it because you're not a physician. But I just saying what this guy's saying. It's a very, very, very frustrating thing. And I wonder if doctors feel threatened by guys that are not, didn't go to medical school, and they've gone to medical school for 15 years or whatever it is. And some of the stories I've heard, Carl, it's mind-blowing.
At least here in the United States, you're in Canada, right?
Correct.
Okay, so here in the United States, we have the American Medical Association. When the AMA started out, it started out as a journal. What people didn't realize, it was a pay-to-play journal. They would publish your research over someone else's, not based on its merit, but if you would pay them to publish it. The job of the AMA was to make doctors appear so godlike that you wouldn't challenge them, that you would take the pill, that you would accept their diagnosis and not challenge them. But thanks to the internet and access to National Institutes of Health and people who have interest, who pick up a dictionary and learn new words and read and learn, now doctors are threatened. Their opinions are challenged at every step. They hate it now. You come into your doctor and he's treating you for something and you say, I got this study here. They'll take the study and put it aside and say, I'll read it later. They won't read it later.
No.
They don't care. They don't care. And I'm going to say one other thing and then we'll leave them alone. A lot of people have died by doing exactly what their doctor told them to do. Absolutely. So if you want me to respect you as a doctor, okay, then you need to respect other opinions too, because you've killed people. Right now, there are doctors out there who have killed. I know a doctor here in town that lost his license and had to move to Indiana because he was only treating fibromyalgia patients, and he was giving them opioids, and 3 of them died of opioid overdoses. And it's not his fault. Yeah, of course it's your fault. You killed 3 people. I can't kill anybody and get away with it, but you can because it's medicine.
Absolutely.
So don't be so pompous just because you're a doctor. That's all I want to say.
And the questioning, this is really now changing a lot, as you brought up. The older people, like if I look at my uncles or my father, for example, I'll tell them stuff. I listen to my doctor. I listen to my
Yes.
doctor. And I'm like, Dad, do you know how many like consults I do in a week? And you know how many messages men I've worked with? And yeah, but I listen to my doctor. And if my doctor says it, the younger crowd, they now have the entire knowledge of man at their fingertips. They can
Yeah.
spend their days reading and reading and learning and learning. And most of them go to their doctors more prepared than their even doctor is, and have details that the doctor doesn't even know, because they just delved into that specific thing they needed to learn. So
So
anyways,
the study that we're going to talk about today, I should have the name of it in front of me. Isn't that funny? I have everything in front of me, but not the name of it. It was, hold on a second. I'm so sorry. I feel like a jerk right now.
I had the links open here, and I think I just accidentally closed it myself.
Yeah, no, but it was called, son of a gun. Here, I have it right here. Hold on a second. It was called Testosterone Replacement in Aging Men, Evidence-Based Patient-Centric Study.
There you go.
And so what they did was they looked at a variety of randomized controlled trials that had fit a certain group of criteria, and then they extrapolated data from them. And this is the RCTs are the gold standard for any type of research. And doing a review of RCTs takes all of this wonderful, great data and funnels it down and says, well, this study didn't find that, this one did, and they extrapolate that, and they put meaning to it. And so the one thing that they point out right from the get-go is that testosterone is not approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for age-related declines in testosterone. And what I want to say about the FDA is harsh. The FDA does not do any scientific research themselves. They don't take the science submitted by a pharmaceutical company and then see and put it under the rigors of their own scientists and see if it comes out the same. They read it. If it looks interesting and sensible, they rubber stamp it. And don't forget, Big Pharma pays millions of dollars to the FDA to approve their drugs. So they're not honest. They're not unbiased. They are biased, number one. And the FDA approved Vioxx. It killed 60, I forget what it was. How many people did it kill? 60,000, 80,000 people died from Vioxx. Nobody ever went to jail. And the company that provided the research to the FDA, they fudged the numbers. The FDA says, well, we had no way of knowing. Shame on you. What are you talking about? If you want to approve drugs, then you need to do the science. Your approval is blind if you're just going, yeah, we believe them. Boom, give it to people. So the fact that the Food and Drug Administration does not approve testosterone replacement therapy for normal age-related decline means nothing. It means nothing. They approved thalidomide. Their first drug the FDA ever approved was thalidomide. Remember how thalidomide babies looked when they were born?
Mm-hmm.
So the FDA's judgment on this stuff should mean less than nothing to you. Less than nothing to you. So I just want to get that out.
But they hold all the cards.
Well, they do and they don't.
Yeah.
They do, but people are free to do what they want to do. Doctors can use testosterone off-label, and that's the beauty of this, and they do. And actually, there's a lot of experts as a result of the fact that the FDA takes this position that debate whether or not testosterone prescriptions for older men is even warranted, or is it just disease mongering? I'm promising you that if you get on testosterone, you're going to feel so much better. But this study looked at the pros and cons. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. You want to comment on what I just said at all?
Yeah, it's hysterical and it's laughable, and to even claim that there's a debate is silly. There is no debate. There is no compound that I can think of, and any of you can write into the show or call in and correct me on this, that has such a vast number of benefits to health, virtually no adverse reactions whatsoever. I can't think of anything better than testosterone that will improve the health of a man. Yet you can go to the store coughing up a lung, buy 3 cases of cigarettes, and no one's going to say, hey, you really shouldn't be doing that. It's fine. You can do that. You can go drink 2 liters of Coca-Cola every single day. No one's going to say a word. You want to eat 10 Big Macs a day? It's no problem. Anything that's going to hurt you is no problem. You can do it as much as you'd like. You're over 18, fine. The fast food, the high sugar, there's no age for that. But if you want to improve your health, now suddenly there's all these restrictions. Now you got to go through all these steps and maybe get approved, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
Well, let's bring some current events into this discussion for a second. If you decide that you are a woman but you want to become a man, they'll give you testosterone with all the potential negative effects that they claim men experience. They'll give it to women. Quite frankly, women who have superphysiological levels of testosterone, i.e., men's levels, develop heart disease, type 2 diabetes. But if you're a woman, every piece of tissue in your body is a woman's tissue, but they'll give you 250 milligrams of testosterone a week so you can play like you're a man. That's okay. FDA, no problem for that. But if you're an old dude and testosterone is dipping and you're starting to manifest symptoms, yeah, we don't back that.
Even if you're a young dude, there's guys that come into my Facebook group, 18, 19 years old, and they're like, I have zero libido. I haven't had an erection in 2 years. Like, I can't have a relationship. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm falling apart. They go to the clinics like, yeah, no, you're too young. No, you can't approve. No, you're not approved, not approved. But it's this, if I go in and say, I want to change my sex. Oh yeah, sure. No problem. We'll give you all the hormones you want. It is, I can't even think of a word that demonstrates how absolutely retarded this is. Right. It's insane.
Right. No, you're right. And the real worrisome part is that younger and younger men are developing low testosterone. In fact, since I've been doing this show for 16 years now, back when I first started doing this show, hypogonadism on an assay was 400 nanograms a deciliter or below. And then about 5 years later, they made it 380. And now I think, if I'm correct, it's actually 240.
Yeah, I even saw a lab recently that was 220.
There you go. So what people don't understand is that epidemiological target is created by taking a large population, randomly testing them, and going, well, the highest testosterone level in the whole group is 1,500, and the lowest testosterone group in the whole group is 220. And so they create that as the standard. Now, think about how stupid that is to create that as the standard. You have a sick, obese population. So you're creating a normal level based on sick people. That would be like saying, we need to look at blood pressure levels again. So let's just randomly take a million people, let's check their blood pressure. And there are some people whose blood pressure is 220 over 109. We're going to say that's the normal high. What? Wait a minute. They don't do that with anything else but testosterone or hormones in general, really. So when you look at sick people and you create your target based on sick people, you're actually condoning that people be sick and treat that like it's normal. And that's exactly where they get these numbers from.
Yeah, and there's a lot of healthy people, keep in mind, that don't necessarily go to the doctor and get their blood pressure checked because they're healthy, they have no issues. They're not getting measured. This range is completely and utterly based on a population of sick people. You look at the population, in particular in the US, it's a population of sick people. And if you look at the range, right now it's about 220 or something, 220, 240, I forget the number, to 1100. Do you know, do you realize what kind of a range that is? If you're at 220, I mean, you're a mess. If you're at 1100, you're going to be feeling pretty damn good. Okay, that is a massive, massive variance of numbers. But as long as you fall into this range, you're normal. In my case, I was outside the range on the low end. And when I went to do my labs and waited for 3 weeks for some kind of feedback, and I wasn't, and I called the doctor to say, what's going on? Oh, you're normal. And I had to fight to get my labs. When I got my labs, I was way below the range. And she says, you're not significantly below the range enough to warrant treatment. I basically had the testosterone levels of a very, very healthy 110-year-old man.
Right. Or what I like to say is a very, very healthy woman. Keep in mind that there are women out there whose testosterone levels can be in the 200 nanogram level. And so what they're saying is, a healthy man's testosterone is 220 and a healthy woman's testosterone is 200. How could that be?
Yeah, especially a woman with
A man
PCOS.
be, yeah, exactly. So talking about the sick population that we get these numbers from, secondary hypogonadism is anything that doesn't include a defect in the HPT axis, the hypothalamus pituitary testicular axis. That's primary hypogonadism. That can be detected by a good andrologist by using various challenge tests. They'll use gonadotropin releasing hormone, give you an injection, see if your body produces testosterone. They'll use luteinizing hormone. They can tell you, oh, it's your pituitary that's messed up. It's your hypothalamus that's messed up. Oh, no, it's your testicles that are messed up. But secondary hypogonadism is a bigger thing in America today. And it's associated with obesity and other comorbidities. Interesting. Isn't that who also had the highest death rate of this pandemic? Maybe government should start paying attention to getting the population healthy instead of selling us vaccines. But
did you, by any chance, Carl, did you hear any instruction from the government? Because during this pandemic, we were told, you got to get vaccinated, you got to stay home, you got to wear a mask, you got to wash your hands, right? To prevent, because we want to make sure everyone stays healthy. Did you hear any instruction whatsoever in regards to improving immune function, to improving health, getting vitamins, getting exercise, anything of the sort? Because I've still been waiting for something from government, anyone that would give this instruction to people, say, oh, I need to do this, I need to improve my health. This is how I go about it.
Well, and interestingly, we're going to show you one of the data points that they collected that shows that testosterone improves immune function in men.
Of course.
This is really profound. But the biggest drop in age-related testosterone is seen, and I'm sorry to say it, big fat guys. If you're carrying a lot of body fat, you got a 42 waist, you love to eat, little Debbies, man, your testosterone is going to disappear. It's because of your lifestyle.
Yeah. What's happening there is for those of you who don't know how this works, there's an enzyme called the aromatase enzyme. It's found abundantly in fat. So for a man that is fat, who has a lot of this enzyme, that enzyme will convert testosterone into estradiol. Estradiol is a form of estrogen. There's estradiol, there's estrone, there's estriol, then you've got environmental estrogens. Anyways, a long story short, you want to maintain as much natural testosterone as you can. And the way to do that is by keeping a decent body weight where you're staying relatively lean, you're minimizing that amount of aromatase so that you have less testosterone that converts into estradiol. If you get very, very obese, you have more testosterone that converts into estradiol, which results in less testosterone. Then the funny thing is that the fat guys will say, oh, I'm fat because I've got high estradiol. Well, no, the high estradiol was caused because you were fat. The fatness did not cause the estradiol. That's something that people don't quite get.
There is a study that profoundly shows that estradiol is lipolytic, not lipogenic. They took two groups of men, they gave them testosterone injections. One group they gave an aromatase inhibitor, one group they did not. They monitored their estradiol levels, and the men who were on testosterone only, who had this higher estradiol levels and were not taking an aromatase inhibitor to inhibit it, lost more body fat and increased more lean body mass. Same dose, same period of time. So the bro science fear of estradiol has been very misguided.
It has. And anytime I've spoken about it, I've been properly bitched out for
you basically touch the third rail. You're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, you're not allowed. No, that's almost a religion to some guys. And you try to explain the way it works.
If you go to a doctor and get a prescription for testosterone, it's your first time using it, and you walk out with anastrozole or some aromatase inhibitor, and he says, okay, we're going to give you, you're going to get one shot a week or 2 shots a week, 200 milligrams a week, and you're going to take one of these aromatase inhibitors every other day, run, because he doesn't even know that you're an aromatizer. He doesn't even know how much estradiol you're going to produce. But we'll talk about that later in the show, because that's a separate topic. So low testosterone as well as low sex hormone binding globulin levels have each been independently associated with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance is the #1 killer of people today on the planet. All the heart disease comes from insulin resistance. All of the cancers, they come from insulin resistance because you're type 2 diabetic. All of the Alzheimer's disease, many of the multiple sclerosis, all these diseases have one thing in common, that you are already diabetic. So low testosterone and low sex hormone binding globulin both are associated with an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Talk about
that. So as you just said, it's having a poor sensitivity to insulin will cause this. Having inflammation in the body in general is usually considered the cause of most disease. They said if you can reduce inflammation or eliminate inflammation in the body, you will reduce your risk of a lot of this disease. The funny thing about SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, I see a lot of clinics that are prescribing testosterone therapy to guys, and let's say their SHBG is 40, and they're only allowed to prescribe a given amount because there's guidelines as to how much you're allowed to prescribe, and they're not allowed to surpass this dose. So what they've been doing is providing stuff like proviron or different compounds to try to lower SHBG further in order to increase free testosterone. So they're getting the free testosterone, but you're winding up with this low SHBG, which if I talk to my good friend, Dr. Eric Serrano, he tells me there's a lot of study that demonstrates that it's being having an increased risk of early mortality.
Well, wait. So I did a show 2 years ago on a study on a protein called megalin, and that it shows that in fact, SHBG does not deactivate hormones. It actually allows them to be carried into tissue where they can become active because of the protein megalin. So once again, we've been misguided. Bro science, lower SHBG, bullshit. Higher SHBG means that the androgens, the hormones in your body that are bound to SHBG are actually going to work because they're going to get into heart tissue. They're going to get into kidney tissue. They're going to get into lung tissue and work. No one realized that this protein megalin helped SHBG do its job by shuttling it into tissue. So good, high SHBG, better than low SHBG. But
the issue is if it's too high, that becomes a bit of a concern for guys getting on HRT. If it's too high, then you're winding up having to have like really high doses just to get some free testosterone at a point that makes you feel good. Yes, it's delivering to the tissue because of high SHBG, but you're fixing one problem and causing another. So it's the guys with the mid-range SHBG are best. Can I say the higher SHBG the better?
Not necessarily.
In regards to how you're going to feel, let's say on HRT, not necessarily. The lower SHBG guys might feel better, but again, it's going to cause there's two sides to this coin, and it's really going to depend on a lot of factors.
So real quick, Horned Frog 77. One adverse effect of TRT is DHT related hair loss. Not necessarily. So I'm a very high 5-alpha reducer. Most of us with darker skin produce more DHT from testosterone. The same way that aromatase turns it into estradiol, 5-alpha reductase turns it into DHT. But there was one point in my life where I was on 2 grams of test a week, and I didn't lose any hair. I made a ton of DHT. So there's more to the story. I understand that DHT has the ability to put the follicle to sleep. But in my humble opinion, hair loss has more to do with blood flow to the scalp, which is influenced by insulin resistance.
Even more so would be genetics.
What's that?
Even more so will be genetics. If you are genetically prone to hair loss and you're upping your androgens and upping your DHT, it will accelerate it. If you are not genetically prone to hair loss, you can do all kinds of gear, and you're not. I mean, you just go look at the Mr. Olympia. I mean, you would figure everyone would have to be bald.
Yeah, right.
And they're not.
Great point. And we got lots of comments and questions, and we're going to get to all of them. Let me just get to one more bullet point. One more bullet point that I want to get to here. And that is this they also looked at this Mendelian randomized study And what they saw was that higher testosterone levels reduced the risk of insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes in men. There's no doubt that testosterone levels influence not just insulin sensitivity, but they influence the gut microbiome too, which we're going to see here in a minute when we talk about immune function and testosterone. So there's a lot of good things that testosterone is doing. And the idea that we can't figure it out, like, how could it be? Let's think. We have testosterone in our 20s and 30s when we are the most robust. We heal faster, we recover faster, we sleep better, we love life. Why are we surprised that testosterone conveys these things to us when it starts to drop and we replace it? Why is everybody so surprised?
I don't know. There's some of the stuff that I just read and I see and I hear, and I just, my brain cannot compute that. You know, in the study they talk about how it increases. I started making bullet points. Increases skeletal mass, increases muscle mass, strength, leg power, stair climbing power. This is going to be more associated with older people. Walking distance, the distance at which they can walk, their mobility, their aerobic capacity. It attenuates the age-related decline in peak oxygen uptake, meaning they wind up with higher oxygenation of the blood.
Sure.
It improves depressive symptoms. We have guys in our Facebook group that have completely gotten off their SSRIs. It improves their bone strength, their hip and spine strength. So if they fall, they're not going to break a hip. You know, it also reduces the fall propensity in older men due to their better muscle strength and reaction time. So they're not falling as often. They have better cognitive function. They have better, if you have Alzheimer's, it improves the symptoms of it. Reduced
sleep.
whole body, visceral fat. There is insulin resistance. It improves the circulating erythrocytes, platelets, neutrophils, monocytes, that corrects the unexplained anemia of aging and improves the iron levels by stimulating erythropoiesis. You know, why would you not give this to people? Why?
Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you think it's because the pharmaceutical industry realizes that $6 worth of testosterone a week eliminates your need for SSRIs, anxiolytics, cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication. I mean, really, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd say, well, yeah, Big Pharma's afraid of testosterone.
Is this a conspiracy to you? Because that is the only thing I can think of, and I've thought about this at length, and I can't come up with any other.
It's always money, Danny. When it comes to humans, it's always money. It's always power. Power is money. So $6 a week of an unpatentable, because don't forget, listen, the pharmaceutical industry pursued patentable selective SARMs. That was going to be their new, SARMs, because we can patent that, we can sell it, we can make millions of dollars on it. We can't do that with testosterone. But SARMs have been a complete failure. Like, why would you want to take, so the mosaic of the receptor has domains in it. And when testosterone docks in there, it activates all of those domains.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 million years of evolution that dictated those domains and their roles. Now you're telling me you're going to take a molecule that only activates this one, and this one, and that's somehow a good thing? No, SARMs don't work. They don't, and they still shut your testosterone down, because back in the day, people were like, yeah, but you could take SARMs and it won't interfere with your natural production of testosterone. Well, that went out the window like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't see doctors prescribing SARMs. You know why? Because they suck. Men don't feel better. Yeah, maybe they have a higher degree of protein synthesis in their muscles, but they don't feel better. They don't feel more energetic. They have all sorts of side effects like, everything you see is yellow. Come on.
I experimented with them at one point, because I like to experiment with something before I can actually share my opinion and my experience. And I did experiment. Right. I remember trying Rad 140 and the other one that's paired very easily with Rad, but muscle mass shot up really fast. I mean, really fast. I was very impressed. But other than that, was libido improved, erections improved, cognitive function, was my sleep improved? No. I had some mass, and the second I stopped, it just was gone. Yeah. It vanished. I said, there's really no point in having this. I was getting worse in sleep. I was getting insomnia. My appetite was really, really, really bad. Couldn't just didn't want to eat. I wasn't feeling healthy on the stuff whatsoever. If in contrast with testosterone, I'm clearly not having any of those
No,
issues.
and that's because for 2 million years we've been influenced by testosterone. The reality is that modern medicine thinks they're smarter than Mother Nature. They think they're smarter than evolution. They think that they can decide what is good for our bodies and what is not. And the arrogance of modern medicine is really where the problems lie. Mm-hmm. You have to honor evolution. You have to honor 2 million years of selection pressure and what it has created in us and what it does for us. And you can't abandon that. Oh, well, I'm a scientist. I can find the molecule that'll be better. Yeah, just like they thought friggin' formula was better than breast milk. And kids like me, I had formula because my mother believed it was better than breast milk because the doctor said, oh, yeah, formula is better. And now we have all these children with all sorts of allergies from my generation because they didn't get breast milk.
I know.
It's horrible. We got to take a break. We got lots to talk about. We got a lot of questions. We will get to every question and comment. I promise you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. Have you been struggling to achieve results in the gym? Trouble sleeping through the night? Overwhelmed with stress or anxiety? Look no further than Infiniwell supplements. They have designed products to address specific needs like muscle growth, hormone balance, sleep, and anxiety from the first use. Infiniwell helps you live well. Go to shrnetwork.biz/bewell. That's BEWELL and use code SHR20 and start living well today. Is there something interfering with your happiness or ability to achieve your goals? BetterHelp can help. They will assess your needs and match you with a licensed therapist. This is not a self-help or crisis line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They have a broad range of experts and are available worldwide without having to wait in an uncomfortable waiting room. Get the help you need and start living a happier life today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/betterhelp. That's better, HELP, and receive 10% off your first month of counseling when you use the code SHR. Testosterone. I want to introduce you to Tau Patch, a heavily researched patented wearable device that provides immediate and long-lasting health benefits. Tau Patch's nanocrystals convert your body heat into light of specific therapeutic frequencies that optimize your central nervous system. The health benefits of Tau Patch include relief from chronic pain, better sleep, increased focus, reduced stress, improved athletic performance, and more. Discover what it can do for you by visiting shrnetwork.biz/Tau Patch. That's TAOPATCH. Use code SHR for your superhuman discount today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Hey, welcome back. I got to plug a new sponsor. Danny lives in Canada. I live in the United States. Some of you live abroad. I know we have a lot of listeners and viewers from around the world. And never before has your cybersecurity been important the way it is today. We know that government agencies are spying on us. We know that companies like Facebook are selling our data, and it's really scary to me. I don't know about how you feel about this, Danny, but to me, it's not like I have angst, but I at least acknowledge that something else is going on out there. Do you feel that way?
In regards to cybersecurity, it just so happens I own an IT consulting company, so that's a big chunk of what we do.
Okay. So we have a new sponsor called NordVPN, and I love it. I mean, there's so many reasons to love this, but the real primary reason is it gives your connection from your computer to whatever it is that you're communicating with, whether it's your email server, whether it's a website. It gives it a level of privacy. It takes all that bandwidth and gives you your own little pipe, if you will. And just what you're doing in here cannot be viewed on through technology outside of that. Is that a correct way to explain it?
Yeah, you're getting kind of, you can call it a dedicated tunnel that's encrypted. So without that encryption, hackers can basically call it sniffing your signal, if you will. I try to dumb this down. I don't want to get technical.
No, that's just the way to do it.
They can tap into what you're doing, maybe your bank related information or your passwords or whatever else. When you're using a VPN, that entire communication with the internet is encrypted. So it becomes that much more hard, if not impossible, depending on the encryption, to see what you're doing.
Now think about it. You're at Starbucks, you're logging into your bank account because you got to check something. You're on Starbucks Wi-Fi. You're on a plane and you paid for the package so that you could be occupied. But that data is out there into the world. You're using passwords, you're visiting websites. With NordVPN, I don't know, have you ever heard of this company before? They're amazing. Of course.
Okay. Absolutely.
And we have a special offer for my audience that is ridiculous. With NordVPN, you can log on and appear like you're in one of 59 different countries, not in your own home, number one. Number two, when you're traveling, you have a private connection to whatever it is that you are doing, okay? And that to me, that's the most valuable. And on top of that, NordVPN has the fastest VPN connection out there. A lot of people say, yeah, I use a VPN, but it sucks because it slows everything down. Well, Nord doesn't slow you down because their technology is some of the finest and best, and they don't overload. That makes a big difference. Right now, for Cyber Month, we have a Cyber Month deal for the Superhuman Nation. If you go to nordvpn.com, nordvpn.com/SHR, and use the code SHR, you will save up to 73% off any of their plans there, plus you'll get a bonus gift. And I'm not going to tell you what the gift is because you have to go check it out. Again, go to NordVPN, nordvpn.com/SHR, use the code SHR, save up to 73% off. And you know what? Forget about what you're saving. Today is freaky. There's freaky stuff going on out there. We don't know who's listening. What you may have a political opinion about something and you're commenting and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden something weird happens. You're like, wow, I was just talking about that, texting with my friend. Don't let people have easy access to you and your data. Don't. Check out nordvpn.com today. nordvpn.com/SHR, code SHR, 73% off. You're going to love it. I love it. It's just a peace of mind with me. You know, I just feel like, okay, I've taken extra steps not to put all of my information out there, my passwords and all my login information, all that sort of stuff.
One of the big reasons why people use it is sometimes for streaming sites. You know, you're in Canada and you want to stream something in the US, but you can't because they detect your IP addresses in Canada. So you connect NordVPN to an American IP, and now you can stream, you know, the American Netflix or the American Prime or the American whatever else. So that's always a nice.
I didn't even think of that. That is really, really cool.
Yeah. Really a couple of years back, none of this was really necessary. We didn't have issues with clients getting hacked. It's the last 2-3 years it's gotten completely out of control.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let's get back on track. Low testosterone levels are associated with shorter telomere length and increased all-cause mortality. That's a big one. You know, we love these all-cause mortality studies because they give us a range of things that shorten life. And low testosterone levels have been linked to a shorter life and here, shorter telomere length.
For anyone who doesn't know telomeres, it's they're basically claiming that the longer this telomere is, the better indicator it is of a longer life, and the
Well,
shorter
because
those telomeres are.
the helical strand of DNA has these little tips on them, kind of like the plastic tips on your shoelaces that keep your shoelace from fraying and unwinding. And they're called telomeres. Those telomeres are actually toolboxes. They have everything that your body needs to repair the DNA. It goes into the telomere and it puts this piece here. It goes into the telomere, puts this piece here. But as it repairs your DNA, obviously it shortens and shortens and shortens. There are things that help preserve the length. There are things that help increase the length. And once the telomeres run out, that strand can't be reproduced. Can't be repaired. So when it's reproduced with an error. There's a lot of people that think that telomere shortening is linked to a predisposition to cancer. Others say that it shortens lifespan. There's a lot of arguments out there. But what we do know is the integrity of your DNA depends on the telomere. And testosterone shows that it helps to keep the telomere from getting shorter. So if you have low testosterone, you're going to age faster, period. End of story.
Absolutely. There's also peptides that help to improve telomere lengths. I can't recall which one it is, but I remember there was one that Jean-François Tremblay was telling me that helps to increase telomere length.
GHKCU is one of them. GHKCU has a profound effect on a variety of different genetic switches, and that's one of them. Obviously, growth hormone increases telomere length. Everybody thinks growth hormone is horrible, but it's not. Testosterone treatment of men 65 and older that had libido issues and significantly improved overall sexual activity, sexual desire, and erectile dysfunction. And this is why I say when a man goes for HRT, his wife should go too. Because if you're married and all of a sudden you're not broken anymore, but your wife still is, she's going to say, I'm not having sex. What are you talking about? Because she has no desire. So if you want to keep your marriage strong, both of you should go for HRT at the same time. What do you think?
Yes, but I just want to address something what they're saying here, where they're saying the 65 and over. First of all, it's going to improve libido and sexual function in any man who has low testosterone, either measurable low testosterone or has normal levels of normal levels of testosterone, but has the low testosterone symptoms. We can touch on that a little bit later. But what my physician friends have told me is that it's the older guys, once they get on TRT, they tend to experience a much more profound impact than the younger guys. The younger crowd, you say you take a guy, he's like 28, he's got some low T symptoms, he's expecting the world. He's expecting he's going to feel like Superman and have sex with his wife 10 times a day and be like a porn star. And I'm like, no, this is not the case. There's going to be an improvement. The older people that have had that decline over many, 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 many years, once you've added testosterone, there's such a significant impact. They cannot believe the difference. It's like going from black and white TV to color TV, or going from color TV to HD TV. It's massive.
I told this story on my podcast over a decade ago. Well, probably around. So I got on testosterone therapy in 2007 after using anabolic steroids for sports-related reasons. My testosterone never came back. I was getting older, and so in 2007. I finally said, I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. And after 2 weeks on, at just 200 milligrams of testosterone a week, I came in and told my audience the story. I said, it's amazing. I said, I feel like I've been living in a warehouse. And when I moved into the warehouse, there were 100 light bulbs. And each year, just one bulb burnt out. And now, and I was in my 40s then. And I said, and so now there's 45 light bulbs. They're all out. But because it happened one a year, the transition was almost not even noticeable. Now it's like somebody came in and replaced all 40 whatever of those light bulbs in one day. And I'm going, oh my God, is this how bright it used to be in here?
Yeah, it was.
My life. In fact, I'll be honest with you. My testosterone replacement therapy led to my divorce, because I wanted to live again. I wanted to walk. I wanted to exercise. I wanted to go out. I wanted to be and live and feel. And my ex-wife didn't feel that way. And she resented me for it. And so you know, that's why I say you got to do this as a couple, because otherwise you're going to end up getting divorced because your wife is going to stay old and you're going to get young.
Yeah. And what we
But
see a lot in the Facebook group is the wife blaming everything on the testosterone.
yeah.
You know, oh, you just yelled at so and so. Oh, it must be your testosterone. Oh, you're having a short temper. It must be everything's the fault of the testosterone. They become envious and they see you progressing and they aren't. And a lot of men come in saying, you know, I have much better libido now. I need to have sex 3 times a week, otherwise I go nuts. And my wife is good with like maybe twice a month.
Right.
You know, and now it causes an issue. Is it a bad issue to have? Well, you know, get your wife on the HRT too, and then she will see the difference it makes for her, and she might say, "Oh my God, this is how bright it was before, and now you're both living lives in this very, very bright warehouse with all the lights turned on." Absolutely.
And now you touched on some of this earlier when you went through your list, but testosterone treatment was shown to dose-dependently increase skeletal muscle mass, maximal volume of voluntary muscle strength, leg power, and modestly improve stair climb power and 6-minute walk distance. But I would like to see how long these people were on, because what I've learned is the longer you're on, the greater your aerobic capacity becomes. A lot of these studies, they looked at men for short periods of time and deduced this stuff. Like the insulin resistance thing, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it could take a year for you to really get back to normal.
Yeah. When I recall when I started testosterone replacement therapy myself, I thought I was going to take a couple of shots once a week or whatever it was, and within about a month, my issues would be gone. A lot of the stuff started to improve around the first or second month, and then I said, okay, well, I guess this is it. Like this is what I'm going to get from this treatment. What I didn't realize is that over the following 6 years, with every passing year, I'm noticing improvement. It's just constant, gradual. It's kind of like you're saying about the changes are so minute that you don't pick them up day by day. But I look back even at myself from 3 years ago. I'm not the same person. Stuff has changed in my physiology. Stuff has changed with my cognitive ability, in my drive, in my focus, in my motivation that I didn't have. You know, I've been on TRT for 6 years that I didn't have 3 years ago. Right? Obviously, after the 3 years, compared to the beginning, it had improved, but it's continued to improve.
Right.
So you can't just do a study on a short period of time and say, well, this is the benefits. Well, no, what would have been the benefits had they kept doing this long term?
Right.
You know,
and that's my beef with the Alzheimer's study that they included in their paper. They said that there was a modest improvement in verbal and spatial memory with testosterone treatment, but it was a small sample size and a very short intervention. See, it's funny because the pharmaceutical industry has become accustomed to people feeling stuff right away. You know, the suppression of a symptom. It's taken you a decade to get sick. You take a pill and it's supposed to make you feel better immediately. The idea of that, to me, is perplexing, because if it took you 27 years to develop this problem and you take a pill and you feel something, you better run, because nothing you took 27 years to develop is going to go away in a week or two. In fact, it could take years of being on the right path to completely reverse it. But with that being said, they did this and they didn't do it for very long, but they saw improvements in verbal and spatial memory. So what happens if they would have put these guys on for a few years?
I know it's. I'll use an analogy because I'm Italian and I'm not talking everything as an analogy. But let's say I'm sitting in this room right now and I'm just frozen. I'm freezing. It's cold. I go to the wall over here and I turn the thermostat on, and I wait about 10 seconds and I say, "Man, this heating system's terrible." Well, no, I have to turn the thermostat. The thermostat now has to send a signal to the heater. The heater has to heat up. And once the heat is heated up, it's heating the air around it. And that heated air around it has to get to me. And then that's going to get, there's a process to this. This isn't something instantaneous. So if I say I'm going to turn on this heater for 10 seconds and say, well, I felt maybe a little something, it doesn't work well. No, you got to give it time. And if I would have left that heater on, guaranteed in about an hour from now, I'd be saying like, man, it's like really hot in here, man. This heater really, really works. You got to give stuff the time to have the effect. Just like when you're exercising, just like when you're changing your diet. People change their diet drastically, and a week later, like, I feel a little bit better. And you just want to like, no, this is, this is going to take time.
It took you 20 years to become a fat F, and now you're on a diet for 2 weeks, and you're like, oh yeah, this isn't really working. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and most guys just don't. And it's like, just what do I take that I can take it, and then all this stuff goes away. Like drinking an espresso, and you, oh, I feel awake. It doesn't work like this. This is a process. It takes time.
You know, this is a big one, even though it's very short. Testosterone administration reduces whole body and visceral fat mass. This is huge. Visceral fat is the fat that causes whole body inflammation. The fact that testosterone therapy gets rid of that belly you have, and people know what I'm talking about. It's not fat. Your belly sticks out like you're marginally pregnant. It's called a distended stomach. That's visceral fat inside the core of your body, pushing out against your abdominal muscles. And testosterone levels will predict whether or not you have higher visceral fat or lower visceral fat.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There was a point you made that you were bringing up earlier about the increased muscle mass. So I just got to address that really, really fast. There is nothing that any of you can do better than trying to add muscle mass to your frame. The more muscle mass you have to your frame, as you age, your standard of life is going to be better. Your quality of life is going to be better. The less muscle mass you have now, you got to keep in mind that as you age, you're going to have less and less and less. Then you get frail, then you get fractures, you fall, you can break your hip, whatever else. You want to have muscle mass. You also want to have as minimal fat mass as possible. Okay, you take anybody of you that maybe have lost 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and you're very proud of yourself. Try picking up a 40-pound dumbbell and say, I'm going to carry this thing around every waking moment of my day for weeks. You wouldn't even be able to carry it. That's how hard it is on the body to be carrying this surplus weight. You want to be reducing your fat mass as much as possible, putting on muscle. When I say putting on muscle mass as much as possible, I don't mean you got to turn into a 350-pound bodybuilding freak. Just a good, decent amount of muscle mass. Stay lean. That in itself will resolve probably 90% of the issues you can have getting older. And the government is always talking about, again, we were talking about the vaccines. They want to protect people. They want people to be healthy. Can you imagine all of the obese people in the world that I snap my fingers and they're all down to about 12% body fat? What effect would that have on the medical system? What effect would that have on hospitalizations? What effect would that have on prescribed pharmaceutical drugs? There would be a fraction of it left.
Well, there is actually a study that we talked about 4 or 5 years ago on the show that shows that women up to the age of 60 and men up to the age of 65, the more muscle a woman goes into her 61st year and on, and the more muscle a man goes into his 66th year and on, the longer they live and the fewer diseases related to aging they develop. So when I started saying muscle is metabolic currency 16 years ago on this show, but it really is. The more muscle you carry, the longer you'll live and the healthier you'll be. And this has been shown in so many studies. The California Veterans Administration did a study that I talked about probably in 2006, where they took like 26,000 men. And all they did was they measured their leg press strength at the beginning of the study. And then they did it again for 20 years. The men with the strongest leg press strength and maintained that leg press strength lived through the whole study. The ones who started out with the weakest leg press strength and continued to get weaker died during the 20 years of the study. And they came out and they said, strength is a predictor of mortality. Very simple study, but it's true. The fact that we say only the strong survive has more to do with what physical strength imparts on us to resist assaults, whether it's viruses, whether it's the cold, whether it's a car accident. I fell down the stairs Valentine's Day, maybe 8 years ago. I jumped up, I ran back up the stairs because it was Valentine's night. Something was going to happen. Alicia said to me, what happened? I said, I ripped the railing off the wall. I says, don't worry about it. We'll check it tomorrow morning. Now, if I was some frail 60-year-old, I would have broke my hip, broke my leg.
And you're done.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Yep.
It's because I have so much muscle on my carcass. That's really what it is.
Yeah. I always thought carcass was a term for something when it's dead.
Yeah.
Can you still say a carcass when you're alive?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
On your frame. Let's not talk. I don't want to talk about your carcass just
yet. There's so many other positives. I just want to cover this last one before we go into the break, because when we come back, we're going to talk about the short list of cons, and then we're going to talk about aromatase inhibitors. This is something that's a favorite topic of yours and mine.
Sure.
So, testosterone treatment of older men increases circulating erythrocytes, platelets, neutrophils, and monocytes. This is a direct effect of a more robust immune system. And we already know that testosterone influences microbial diversity in the gut. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about people having weak immune systems, getting sick. They're all obese. The men, I'm sure their testosterone levels are real low. If you want to boost your immune system, get your hormones straightened out, right?
Absolutely. I mean, again, guys, everyone, when I say guys, everyone watching, look at teenagers who are all, in general, way better optimized on the hormone profile than older people. They don't have heart attacks and strokes and cardiovascular disease and dementia and all that. They don't. It's as you age and then these hormones begin to decline, that's when the issues kick in. Bring these hormones up to a point that makes sense, and you're eliminating your chance of these issues. This isn't even up for debate. Anyone who questions this, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. I see guys on TRT in my Facebook group. There's over 10,000 members right now. I see just some of the before and afters and the way they look and the way they talk, and it's astonishing. Guys that started businesses and in their 50s, like, I finally have the energy and the drive to jump out of bed and get stuff done. My own business, this is no word of a lie. I've improved my business 5 times over in the last 5 years being on TRT. I've had my business 18 years. It was stagnant. I had no drive, no motivation. I get on TRT and then my business went, it just took off because I have that drive, that focus, that motivation.
That we attribute to youth.
Yes. I didn't have it. It was gone. And they were trying to give me an antidepressant. Well, what the hell's an antidepressant going to do? I'm not depressed. There's something off. It's
something missing.
Yeah.
There's one thing in this. So they talk about the increase in bisphosphoglycerate, which is helps bone mineral reuptake, muscle capillary and blood flow, but this one here,
mitochondrial biogenesis, testosterone not been shown to. That was the weird one I saw in the study. Has not been shown to improve fatigue. I'm like, what? Carl, I don't know if you can still hear me. I can see you, but I can't hear you anymore. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay, I can't hear you. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me mute myself. Can you hear me now? Okay, hold on a sec. Keep going. I'll get it figured out. It might be on my end.
Problem with my phone sometimes. Test. 5. Can you hear me now? Hear me? No? Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And we'll get to everybody's comments and questions, I promise. INSIDETRACKER to say I'm coming back, everybody. I don't know if you're still watching me on video or not, but we're coming back. Hold on. Just waiting for my camera to come back up. There we go. And Danny. Can you hear me, Danny?
Yes, I can. You're back.
I just had to refresh the browser. This happens sometimes. I mean, it's just part of technology. And this is, nobody wants to do live podcasts. Nobody. I don't think there's anybody out there that does live because there's always the potential for a problem. Something goes wrong. Everybody freaks out. But we're back. So let's get right back to where we were. Let's pick up the discussion on the cons real quick, and then we will go to everybody's comments and questions, and we'll go from there. So here are the stated cons from the study, and the link to the study will be in the show post on my website. The adverse effects of testosterone treatment include acne, erythrocytosis, which is an overproduction of red blood cells, but that's also the reason why it makes anemia go away and makes oxygen more readily available for aerobic exercise. Growth in metastatic prostate cancer. This has been disproven, by the way, and we'll talk about that.
It has.
Reduce in sperm production. That's why Europe allows men to take testosterone, because it's a male birth control. And increased risk of detecting subclinical prostate cancer. So that one makes no sense. You would think that detecting prostate cancer sooner would be a good thing. I don't understand why that's a bad thing, but maybe they misworded it. So first, let's just real quick address the scary one here, and that's metastatic prostate cancer. Dr. Samuel Denmead, not Paul Godley. He was the guy who wrote a paper on prostate cancer for the American Cancer Society back in 2007, 8. Dr. Samuel Denmead has been on my show twice, and he is now curing the most aggressive prostate cancers in men. How? By giving men testosterone. In fact, if you look at the research, the men with the most radical prostate cancers have the lowest testosterone levels. So he's giving guys super physiological. He'll give you a 600 milligram dose of Test-Sip and let it ride out for 2 months. And that pulse of high to low seems to suppress the growth of the tumor in the prostate, which led me to believe that if they used a daily testosterone, see, you have a daily pulse. At 6 a.m., you pulse testosterone and it drops off. That protects you from developing prostate cancer. So testosterone doesn't cause prostate cancer. In fact, it could be said that low testosterone is more linked to prostate cancer than high testosterone. Good.
If testosterone caused prostate cancer, where are all the teenagers with prostate cancer?
Right, right.
I haven't found any of those.
Yeah,
So
right.
where are they?
Yeah, that's pure logic, and it's true. The other thing
Acne as an adverse reaction was kind of funny. Acne, I mean, does that really considered an adverse reaction? I got a little pimple here or there. I feel like $1 million and I'm finally having sex with my wife again and I'm getting all this stuff done, but I got a pimple. Is that an adverse reaction? The erythrocytosis is an increase in your blood cell count. A lot of doctors will freak out as soon as it gets past a certain number. We have plenty of studies showing that this is absolutely normal and to be expected for men on testosterone replacement therapy. Athletes take EPO to increase their blood cell count to have better oxygenation of the blood and better performance. We don't see tons of athletes just dropping dead all the time. Now if erythrocytosis combined with multiple other underlying conditions, could they all add up? Yes. So my analogy I can be, let's say erythrocytosis is I am driving, 20 miles over the speed limit on a highway. Is that dangerous? Well, it's not really the end of the world. Okay, what if I'm doing that, but it's also night? What if I'm doing that, it's nighttime and it's also foggy and it's slippery and it's icy and maybe there's traffic up ahead? If you're adding all of these factors, well, now driving fast is, maybe a little dangerous. But in the absence of underlying conditions, erythrocytosis in itself is not really a concern.
Right. And in fact, no one looks at athletes and young adults and compares their red blood cell count to older guys. But chances are it's just a more youthful level of red blood cells.
Yeah. And by the way, any of you guys going to get your blood level count checked, ensure that you are properly hydrated before doing your labs.
Yes.
If you are dehydrated, you haven't had water that day, and you go do your labs, your hematocrit and hemoglobin will appear to be elevated. It might throw your doctor into panic. Had you just been properly hydrated, those values would have been gone down.
In fact, if you take salt and water the morning of your blood work, you'll find a huge difference because salt pulls water into the bloodstream and changes the ratio of red blood cells to serum. So there's so many things. See, the doctors don't ask these questions. Like if you go to the doctor and you have a high PSA and he goes, oh man, if he doesn't say to you, did you have sex last night with your wife or your partner? Because if you have sex and you have an orgasm, your PSA levels for 2 days go through the roof.
As does your prolactin.
Okay, I'm sure from the orgasm. And so doctors don't say, oh, your PSA levels are high. Have you been sexually active in the past couple of days? They just go, oh, your PSA levels are high. We need to go do a biopsy. No, man, ask the right questions. But doctors rarely ask the right questions when you think about it. This is another one that I love. Testosterone treatment does not worsen lower urinary tract symptoms or obstructive sleep apnea. There are a lot of physicians that won't prescribe testosterone to their men because they'll say, well, you have obstructive sleep apnea. You're not a candidate. Nonsense. In fact, your obstructive sleep apnea may go away once you're on testosterone.
Absolutely. Yeah. The sperm production one is funny. You'd think like, okay, you have all these issues. I can give you something. Are you planning to have a family now? Yes. Okay. You might want to keep in mind your sperm production go down. And you were mentioned earlier about the birth control. You know what they call guys on TRT that are having sex with their wives and girlfriends unprotected? They call them fathers.
Yeah.
It's going to reduce your sperm count and it's going to be very individualized. Some will have a small reduction, some will have a big reduction. It only takes one. And you're shooting millions and millions and millions.
I know so many bodybuilders whose wives got pregnant while they were in the competing stage. And they were using high levels of androgens and they have normal children. So there's so much being ignored out there. There is no consistent relationship between testosterone levels and prostate cancer risk, period. And the rates of prostate cancer in the carefully selected men who were included in the RCTs have been low.
Absolutely.
So
that's the funny thing is they're saying there's no relationship, and then they go on to say the ones that had low T.
And as far as heart attack outcomes, there's currently an ongoing randomized control trial on hypogonadal men 45 to 80 years old who are already at increased risk of heart attack, when that study is published, we will have definitive answers on testosterone replacement in this group. But right now, what we do know is testosterone makes the heart stronger. In fact, low testosterone is a risk factor for heart failure in men, where the heart just goes, F it, I'm done. I can't keep up with this anymore.
As is the low estradiol.
Yes. And to endorse that, young men who have heart attacks end up with more collateral damage to the heart, because, assuming they have high testosterone levels, because it keeps the heart pumping even during the ischemic event. Now, think about this for a second. Medicine looks at this as a negative. They say, oh, well, high testosterone levels in older men causes more damage to the heart. But they live. They don't die from the heart attack. That's why they have more. That's why we could say they had more damage, because they live, and we go, wow, the heart muscle wouldn't give up against all of this. It wouldn't give up, and you're alive, so you're still alive, so we can say, hey, that testosterone caused heart damage, but it didn't cause death from the heart attack. So, like, this is how modern medicine looks at stuff that just makes you want to bang your head into a wall. If your heart is beating stronger, and you have an ischemic event, and your heart goes, F it, I'm not stopping, you're a survivor.
Absolutely. And I don't get why this is. I don't get why this is. Later on in the study, they said the Endocrine Society recommended that testosterone therapy should be offered on an individualized basis in men over 65 years who have symptoms or conditions suggestive of testosterone deficiency and consistently low testosterone. Over 65. So if you're 40 and you're having issues, oh, no, you have to wait till you're 65. Why do I have to wait till I'm 65 to take something that's going to improve my health when I can do it now?
Right.
Yet I can take everything that's going to kill me.
But you'll give me statin drugs that lead to diabetes and dementia. You'll give me blood pressure medication that causes depression. Beta blockers. Most men get depressed when they're on beta blockers because there's beta adrenergic receptors in the brain that all of a sudden aren't stimulated anymore. The same thing with ARBs. A lot of men who get on ACE receptor binding instead of ACE angiotensin converting enzyme ACE inhibitors, they end up with depression. These receptors are throughout the entire body, and they're not all bad. It's not all bad. Let's work our way through some comments and questions real quick, and then we'll wrap it up with the discussion about aromatase inhibitors. Juan Carlos Torres Euratia, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Okay. Do you know him?
No, I just
okay. Yeah,
Carlos Torres Euratia.
Okay,
I guess.
He says root cause. I just had a window open up on my computer for no reason. Root cause: insulin resistance syndrome, testosterone deficiency in young lads of westernized countries, driven by disturbances in the metabolic milieu. Correct diet keeps testicles healthy. This is true, and also we also have a lot of bad actors like phytoestrogens and phytoandrogens and xenoestrogens, xenoandrogens. Talk about it.
Okay. You just said it's true. Does it help? Yes. Does it eliminate all issues? No. Our food does not have nearly the same nutrients as it once did. Number one, to say I eat healthy, therefore I don't need vitamins. No, you still need to take vitamins. You still need to take minerals. The food you have has a fraction of the nutritional content in what's had. Okay. That's number one. Obviously, you got to exercise. You got to have good sleep. You got to keep stress under control. These are all understood. The thing that is not understood by people is the prevalence that is just getting worse and worse of endocrine disrupting chemicals, the hormones in our water, the plastics, the preservatives, all the crops that are grown, the air that we breathe, everything, in particular cosmetics, your Axe body wash that you slather on, your skin is like a sponge.
Anything with scent in it has something called phthalates.
Yes.
Phthalates bind scent. So whether it's one of those plug-in air fresheners, your wife likes to spray Febreze on everything, phthalates are anti-androgens. They block the androgen receptor. So testosterone, DHT, DHEA can't do anything.
Correct. So what you wind up with is guys feeling like crap. They go to the doctor they say, I have the symptoms of low testosterone. The doctor measures their serum levels, and they say, you've got healthy levels of testosterone. Yeah, but I have all the symptoms of low testosterone. Why is that? Well, the doctor says, well, according to your labs, you're fine. And that's the third part. I just want to strangle some of these doctors. He's not fine. He's reporting he doesn't feel well. The symptoms are due to low testosterone, but his health testosterone levels are normal according to this range. So what do you do? The issue is with these endocrine disrupting chemicals that bind to the receptors in the body that the testosterone wants to bind to. So what happens is when you have your testosterone, your receptors saturated with this stuff, you have plenty of testosterone circulating through the body, but it has no place to attach to exert its effect. So you're measuring the levels, and the levels look fantastic, but they're just not doing anything. They're not having any bang for the buck in your system because your system is so saturated with this crap. The only way that we have found to improve this is by raising testosterone levels even further. So the analogy we use is like the hockey team analogy. You've got the testosterone side has got 5 players, and then you got the endocrine disrupting chemicals on the other side, and they got 15 players. Well, guess what? The 15-player team is going to kick the ass of the 5-player team. So what do? You got to increase the players on the testosterone team to outcompete the endocrine disrupting team, and then suddenly you're starting to feel like you felt like you should all along.
That's a really good point, because when the receptor becomes unoccupied, if you have more of these synthetic chemicals in your blood than real testosterone, they have a better shot of getting back in there and blocking testosterone.
Absolutely.
Claude Lavertu says, in regards to
Claude, Claude is a dear, good friend of mine. I am honored to call this man a friend. This guy has done so much for me and my family. I couldn't even put it into words. This guy is a phenom. He's got 15 books out. He's an author. He's fantastic. Guys, Google this guy. I could go on and on for weeks about this guy.
He says government not advising on improving immunity. When they did so in the U.S., the public went mad, called it fat shaming, and that was the last we ever heard of it. He's right about this. We're not in the United States. We're not allowed to talk about the truth. We see this in political venues now. We see this everywhere. I was 330 pounds. I'm a card-carrying fat person, so I talk about it on my show all the time. But he's absolutely right. We have people that are suing fast food restaurants because the space between the tabletop and the bench isn't enough for them to get in and out. And we have courts actually considering demanding that restaurants make their tables more accessible for these fat people. Instead of saying to the fat person, you're fat, lose weight, that's why you don't fit. I saw something the other day on TV where somebody is suing public restaurants because chairs need to be made stronger, because this person is 400 pounds and chairs, they have a rating of 250 or whatever, and they break, they collapse, they're embarrassed. Like, there is no ownership anymore of anything. There is no personal responsibility in the United States. Being a victim is the most popular thing you can do today. You're absolutely right. And it keeps us from having real dialogue about what the real problems are here. He's absolutely right.
Yeah. It's funny you just said, I was sitting on this chair and I fell. I was embarrassed. You're embarrassed because you fell. You're not embarrassed to be 400 pounds?
Right.
Is that not a little bit of a concern?
We could normalize everything. Let's normalize heroin addiction. Let's normalize, let's take extremely dangerous events and lifestyles. Let's normalize them. Let's just do that, because that's exactly what these people are doing. It's terrible, but I speak out about it all the time.
Well, you look at again, you brought up earlier about the pandemic. The obese were really hard hit from this. Has anyone said, you guys got to get this weight issue under control because you're putting a strain on the hospitals? No, because they can't, because of fat shaming. Instead, they're forcing people to get vaccines, whether they need them or not, or want them or not, threatening to lose their jobs. But the fat people just go on eating their Twinkies and whatever else. And
I was ashamed
all
I was fat. I was ashamed. Nobody, and I didn't expect anybody to tiptoe around the fact that I was fat. I didn't even like being fat. This is nonsense. And this is, and the whole identity politics thing has taken this lame attitude and leveraged it. The truth of the matter is, Juan Carlos Torres Eurasia says cardiomyopathy, HTN, hematocritosis, and
Juan Carlos, can you post a study demonstrating that testosterone causes cardiomyopathy? Smaller testicles, yeah, it's going to cause smaller. Some will have a very, very almost imperceptible amount of shrinkage, and some will have a lot. It really all depends. Why? Your testicles no longer have a job to do. I did a video about this on my YouTube channel. I said my testicles were not doing the job I needed them to do. So what did I do? I fired my balls. I fired them. And what I did is I outsourced the job of my balls to taking exogenous testosterone. I put that testosterone in my body to give myself the levels that I needed to feel good, and I fired them. I don't need them anymore. This isn't an adverse reaction. If the testicles were doing what they needed to do in the first place, I wouldn't have to get on TRT. But they're doing a poor job.
Hemochromatosis isn't guaranteed if you're on HRT.
No.
And there's no linkage to cardiomyopathy and HRT.
No.
There is
I don't know what HTN is. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, oh my God, Danny Bossa says, "Hey Claude." I guess you saw his
Oh,
post.
that was me. Yeah. High blood pressure. Oh, hypertension. High blood pressure.
Oh, that's not guaranteed if you're on testosterone.
I've been on TRT for 6 years, and my blood pressure is textbook. So where's my high blood pressure?
Yeah. Those are the fallacies that have been passed around for decades. That's all bullshit. I'm sorry to say. I have low free testosterone around 7. I don't know what assay he's using. High sex hormone binding globulin around 120. Mm-hmm. Normal total T.
What's normal T? What's normal total T? Cola quench. Because are you at 220 or are you at 1200? That's all normal. Any supplemental T, even 1 to 2 milligrams, is too energizing. Okay. There's no such thing, guys, as supplemental T. Any amount of exogenous testosterone that you take will eventually suppress your natural production. Okay, that's how it works. You can't say, I only make a little bit of testosterone, so let me add a little bit on top, and then I'll have, no, your natural production will go away. 1 to 2 milligrams is too energizing. There are some guys that are extremely sensitive to exogenous testosterone. They get anxiety, they get panic. We see a lot of this in the Facebook group. There's actually a SNP in DNA that if you have this, I forget which one it was, you could be prone to this. You guys become a lot more complicated. I've seen guys having to take 5 milligrams a day, and they can't take more than that. I've never heard of anyone taking 1 or 2 milligrams. 1 or 2 milligrams, can't say I've seen anything like that before.
Man, I'm glad that's not me.
I'm wondering is it at all possible that it could be psychosomatic, that you're just taking something and you're like, what is this going to do? When am I going to feel it? And it's just working you up because you're expecting some kind of outcome, adverse reaction. Because I do see a lot of guys with that. I'd have to get more details about this one, Coach.
So this one is also from Juan Carlos Torres Eurasia. He says, if your post-meal incretin levels, GIP and GLP-1 are appropriate, avoids IRS, I'm assuming insulin resistance. The enteropacrine cell exists. Dynamic is what to correct first. I'm not even sure.
If you're post-meal incretin,
yeah. So he has another comment here too, which I do believe about this. Frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods.
Oh, yes.
Issue.
Absolutely.
Yes. But it's not due to insulin resistance. It's a big issue because we're eating chemically treated foods today. And,
with extremely low nutritional content.
Right. And we just talked about testosterone increases mitochondrial biogenesis, by the way. So does exercise, extreme exercise. The real problem with these foods is they are laced with chemicals, and we have no idea what these chemicals are doing to us. Most of them are endocrine mimicking chemicals. The government doesn't care. They think it's okay. A little bit of this isn't going to hurt you. But I always used to use the analogy, well, if I knocked on your door every morning and said, you and your children, come here, I'm going to put 1 drop of Roundup on your tongue every day for the next couple months. You wouldn't let me do that, but that's probably the accumulation of glyphosate that you're getting day in and day out eating conventionally processed foods. So I do agree with you there that high ingestion of processed foods definitely is causing a lot of problems. Your friend Claude says, yes, Mr. Lenore, you said it. Money is power. Power is money. I'll add, humans are disposable and a sick society is highly profitable one. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, there's no money to be made in prevention. Otherwise, I would be wealthy because I've been talking about prevention for 16 friggin' years now. Dave Ass Spray says bulletproof coffee triples testosterone levels. Well, look, I'm not a fan of Dave's. I believe he panders. And I also believe that my audience is much more intelligent than Dave's. Dave has a bigger audience. If you look at the statistics for IQ in the United States alone, it's estimated between 16 and 20% of the population has an IQ below 85. The Army won't take you if you have an IQ below 85 because they say you're unteachable. And I've been doing this show longer than anybody else out there. I don't have the biggest audience as a result because I talk about the science. You're going to have to educate yourself and elevate in order to participate in this show. And I refuse to pander. I'm not going to pander. I don't know if he really says that bulletproof coffee triples testosterone levels, but I was at an A4M meeting in Las Vegas where Dave paid a lot of money to be, and he had an opportunity to lecture doctors. And he got up and he said, I'll never forget this. It made me laugh and made me embarrassed for him at the same time. He said, the reason patient compliance for taking medication is low is because of low mitochondrial energy. And he equated low mitochondrial energy to a level of fatigue that made people not take their medicine. And it was such a stretch. And I can't believe any of the doctors bought it. Patient compliance often is economical. When it comes to drugs, patient compliance is often they don't trust the drugs to begin with, and they don't want to have their prescriptions filled. The last thing patient compliance in taking medication is falling on is your ability for mitochondria to produce energy. But you know what? God bless him. He tried,
Guys, I want to make a really fast word. We're talking about coffee because we're talking about adverse reactions, one of them being acne. I used to get ridiculous acne on my back while I was on TRT. And I said, well, this is going to be the price I'm going to pay for feeling as good as I do. My wife came up with some, crazy idea that she wanted to ditch caffeine for a month. And I thought she was nuts. And she's like, you're gonna have to do it with me. We did. At the end of the month, not only did I feel better, but my acne was completely clearing up. To anyone who has issues with acne on TRT, try 30 days no caffeine. It's really hard, but if you can do it, it may help you the way it did with me.
I agree.
Caffeine boosts cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. The more stress hormone, the more acne. You can do the math there.
And I think it's a bigger problem than we give it credit for in North America.
It's huge. You see the guys lined up at the Starbucks, and they're there like, they're trying to
well, and when you look at our parents, they drank a little 4 ounces of coffee that you could see through.
Yep.
Today, the amount of turbidity, that just the undigestible particulate matter that you're consuming is messing your stomach up.
Absolutely.
I don't know what we said that brought on this one, but mitochondria. This is Juan Carlos again. Mitochondrial bioenergetics, the inner membrane, mitochondria affected by lipid compositions follow the electrons. Maybe that's when I was talking about my theory on chronic fatigue. I really do believe chronic fatigue has more to do with insulin resistance than anything else. Dean Paulson, good friend of the show. He says, Carl, you have to stop using the expression a little nosh. In the UK, it's a gay or LGBT expression. When did I say a little nosh?
I don't recall you saying a little nosh.
Maybe he got something wrong. Okay. This one was a comment. This is your comment to Cola Quench.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're going to work through these as quickly as possible because I promised we wouldn't leave anybody out. Dean Paulson says, although nothing against the community, a completely natural, nothing wrong at all Having your meat and 2 veggies cut off doesn't sound fun to me, but whatever. That's when we were talking about girls who want to be boys getting testosterone. I guess that's what he's talking about with that.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The meat and 2 veg. Okay.
In fact, in the UK, it's easier for a man to get a sex change than TRT treatment. Here too.
Everywhere.
Really yeah.
Everywhere. Europe, doesn't matter.
Oh, look at this. So Claude says NordVPN is the bomb. Love that they're sponsoring the show. Me too. I'm really excited that they're here because I love their product, by the way. Dean Paulson, Zuck the Cuck is a Chinese asset. Angels and demons are real and at war right now, guys. The demons just got kicked in the nuts Tuesday night in Virginia. You're right about that. That was a big win. Katrina, who's a fan of the show and always here, made my hubby get in it with me. She got on HRT. She made her husband do it too. That's good. Claude comes back and says, add to this the fact that we're in an immediate gratification mindset. Yes, people don't want to wait for anything to take effect. And this is why transgenerational wealth is no longer a thing. Because people get money today and they spend it all today. They have no sense of deferred gratification. Any opinion?
Nobody wants to wait for anything. It's immediate. I mean, just look at the prevalence of Amazon, the success of Amazon. I can sit here on my lazy ass and just go on Amazon and say, I want this. And tomorrow it gets hand delivered right to my door. I don't have to get up. I don't have to walk. I get it right away. Everything I want, I can get it right away. So if I got to wait for something now, it's annoying. That's how we've been programmed. And it's not even just for the health stuff. You look at people, these physique athletes on Instagram and these models, and I want to look like her. And they think they're just going to do a little bit of weights and eat well for a couple of weeks and they'll look like her. No, this is years and years and years of effort. Everything is slow and long, and you have to trust the process and be patient.
This is a really good one because I happen to have read a paper that just came out of embargo today. So Dean Paulson says sickness and obesity of the nation is our biggest threat. I've been talking about that for a long time, and they'll make the U.S. bankrupt. So just this morning, an article was published about a study that looked at the overall cost of obesity in the United States as juxtaposed to our gross national product. So every year, governments are graded on the ability to increase GDP. And in the United States, the average increase in GDP is around 3.12% every year. And Trump had some higher numbers, but that was him. So the study says obesity is costing the United States 3.57% of GDP. So obesity is erasing the GDP every year. Think about that for a second. We strive so hard to produce more and more and more, to increase the gross national product of this country so that we can keep paying bills, keep paying loans, and keep growing as a country. And those obese people out there, those fat people out there, they're literally erasing that increase every single year. How horrible is that? That's just in the United States.
I know. It's, again, I don't have words sometimes for some of this stuff. I don't know what to say. Is it incompetence? Is it corruption? Is it the money? Is it the big pharma that's holding all the cards? Is it a lack of education? Is it why? To me, it's just so straightforward. It seems like it's something relatively simple to fix, and just nothing's being done about it.
It's because they don't want to fix anything. It's all about, politicians are all about power too. Like Claude said before, politicians are all about power. The things that our administration is doing right now in the United States, all about empowering themselves, their families, their future families. It's not about fixing the United States. Angie, who is your wife, says, I love GHK Copper. It's great stuff. I know. Elisa mixes it into her different face serums, and it does work. Clint CB says, Carl is the knowledge base for so many overnight shows that have popped up over the last 5 years. Thank you. Thank you. Claude says, Physical strength with age explains why retired men die shortly after retirement and why men who can't afford to retire and work in physical jobs live much longer, even if they smoke and drink. It's fact. In fact, I said on this show that the preferred jobs of the future will be landscaping, because those of us who sit at a desk all day will die sooner and the landscapers will live longer and be healthier. So watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they'll be the ones. Art Wilborn says, man, that Little Debbie comment hit close to my heart. Did I say something about Little Debbie? Maybe I did. I don't know. I say things that I don't even remember. I don't even realize I'm saying it. We hear Danny, but not Carl. That's when our audio dropped off, but we fixed that. Angie says, women also need TRT. It's very important, but there is still a huge myth around estrogen replacement and women causing cancer. And in general, there's a lot of physicians out there who think, oh, well, testosterone is a male hormone. Women don't need to. I remember Elisa went to a nurse practitioner once, and she told Elisa that if she took testosterone, she would be humping the doorknobs in her house. And now keep in mind, Elisa was already on she was on bias, she was on progesterone, and she was on testosterone. And when she came home to me and told me that, I thought that woman needs to be fired.
Yeah. I would have said, just to play along, I said, I would actually really like to see her hump a doorknob. Can you give her some, and I'll just see what happens? And a couple weeks, I haven't seen her hump any doorknobs so far. When does that take place?
But when we were kids, that was the story about Spanish fly. Oh, a girl,
I remember that stuff.
Fly, and she went on got on the guy's gear shift in his car and killed herself. I mean, yeah, this is just
Spanish fly. I remember trying to find that stuff when I was a kid and never did.
No, it's because people have, especially those who are very religiously in tune, they've been scared of sexually active women since the beginning of time. A woman's libido will be good for a while on TRT, but it will decline fast if she also does not increase estrogen levels. It's a huge factor. Yes, and men too. We were just talking about ATD. Back in the 90s, ATD was all up on the bodybuilding boards as an anti-aromatase, an aromatase inhibitor, better than androstenedione. Well, many of us tried ATD, and within weeks, sometimes days, we lost our libido and an ability to have an erection because it suppressed estrogen so far. Estrogen is important to men too. We're going to get into that in a second. Let's see. I think we're almost done here.
There was Steve Marchiona who was asking, is it better to split up your 200 milligram weekly dose into 50 milligrams every other day or 100 milligram twice a week? So Steve, I just posted right below a link to a video that I did called How to Optimize Your TRT Protocol. This is often heavily dependent on your SHBG levels. The lower your SHBG, oftentimes the more frequent you would need to inject. The higher the SHBG, often the less you need to inject. Basically, rule of thumb for anybody on TRT is you want to start off with twice weekly injections. And if you feel stable throughout the week and it's not like I've got libido one day and the next I don't, and I got erections one day and the next I don't. If you've got none of these issues going on and every day just feels very consistent, very much the same, you're typically good with the twice weekly. If you're feeling the up and down, then you want to increase the frequency. You can move to 3 times a week. Eventually you can try every other day, or at the extreme, you can go to daily shots. Okay, you want to find the minimum amount to take it per week where you feel stable. In my case, I have low SHBG. Mine's about 18 to 20. I can do every other day shots, but daily shots seems to give me the best benefits. So all I do is on Saturdays, I'll load up 7 syringes for a week. It takes me a few minutes. I shove in my bathroom door, and every morning I pull one out, give myself my fast shot. It takes me a couple seconds, and I'm done. So again, if you're feeling great on twice weekly injections and stable and consistent without any issues, keep doing that. Okay, it's just as simple as that.
And his follow-up question you answered in the post, actually, about HCG. You're not a fan of HCG, I see.
No, it's not that I'm not a fan. There are some guys that take HCG and they rave about it. They say, I finally feel all the benefits I felt with testosterone. For a lot of guys that are on TRT and they're still having some symptoms of libido issues, they've added HCG and suddenly their libido comes roaring back, or their erections come roaring back. Or some of them talk about very poor penis sensitivity during sex. They're like, I'm going at it, I just don't feel anything. They add a little bit of HCG. It's like, oh, it's sensitive now, and my wife just touches it, and then it's, you know, they get a lot of times also neurological benefits, because it does have an effect on the upstream hormones, some of the neuro steroids and whatnot. Some people report feeling better. Some people also report not feeling very well. I take HCG. I actually just tried it again recently, just to see if maybe at a lower dose, my libido is gone within a week on HCG. I don't feel well. I break out in acne, and I've met a lot of guys that do. So should HCG be given by default? If you're on TRT or in your 20s, you still plan on having kids, I would strongly recommend taking it. If you have not had kids, should you start with HCG? I would say no. Dial in your TRT dose first. And once your TRT dose is properly dialed in, if you think that there's some room for improvement, you can then experiment with some HCG. Throw in a little bit, see what it does. If you feel better on it, great. If you don't, ditch it.
Real quick, HCG hasn't been banned. Compounding pharmacists have been banned from making a compounding HCG because there's still a patent on it. You can only get HCG through Pregnil, or the label Pregnil. So HCG has not been banned. It's just that compounding pharmacists can't make it anymore. One last question here, and then we're going to just talk quickly about aromatase inhibitors. Jeff Cap says he's 62 years old, a former competitive lifter, also international martial arts, in decent shape. Recently did a stint in the hospital with COVID. Doctors are saying TRT is not advisable until 60 to 90 days after testing negative. Not sure about this, but interested in. Well, that would mean that young guys would have to turn their testosterone off.
Yeah.
I guess.
So Jeff, this is what I was going to say. What Carl is saying. So teenagers that get COVID, should they have their testicles surgically removed temporarily until they recover, and then have them reattached? Because I think
the only thing I think why this may be an issue, and I want your opinion. In the event that Jeff is someone who does get some increased blood viscosity, not inflammation driven, but hematocrit, red blood cells, erythropoiesis, and we know that clotting occurs higher in people with COVID. Do you think there's any reason there to be cautious, or just take a baby aspirin?
There's tons of people that believe that testosterone itself causes blood clots. There's a big difference between elevated levels of hematocrit and hemoglobin, which are, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's
and
fine.
Thrombosis, right.
And thrombosis and blood clots. Does testosterone itself cause blood clots? No. So with COVID, there's an issue with potential blood clots. So they're saying, yeah, well, now testosterone also causes blood clots, so it's not advisable. I don't really see. I don't see why this would be the case. I can make a post in my Facebook group and tag a bunch of doctors, and I doubt that they would say anything differently.
I would offer that doctors should be talking to women who are on methylated hormone-based birth control pills, because the methylation is what increases thrombotic index, not the hormone, even though they're friggin' equine estrogens and progestins. But anything methylated, methylprednisone, it increases thrombotic index because of the way it F's with your liver. And so I'll bet they're not telling women, well, stop your birth control pills until, for 60 to 90 days, because those women will get pregnant. So no, if you're somebody who also has obstructive sleep apnea, then your risk of thrombosis increased due to a protein produced called D-dimer. So this is not a universal thing. And the truth is that I probably had COVID, and Elisa and I got it in November of 2019 when we went on a cruise that left from Quebec City and went down the East Coast. And that cruise, there was the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mary, one of those. It had just come from Europe and Asia. And there were people on that cruise that were like hacking, and I ended up getting something that really like effed me up for a few days. And we talked about it on the show, but I didn't stop my testosterone therapy at all.
Well, and here's the thing I just want to clarify. If and this is to Jeff, if you had not yet started TRT and you were interested in starting TRT and the doctor's saying it's not advisable, you want to wait. Okay, fine. TRT is definitely going to improve cardiovascular function. it's lung protective, the estradiol and everything else, exactly what you would need for a respiratory illness. Now, if he's telling you, if you're already on testosterone, that you should stop testosterone while you're recovering, that's madness. That's a doctor I would like to get my hands around their throat. That is completely and utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, if anything,
You
it's
do
going
not stop
to
TRT.
your immune system. We just went through all that. It's going to improve your immune system and your immune response. It's going to make you more robust. It's going to make your heart work better. I mean, yeah, it's.
Can you imagine being in a weakened state like COVID and then having a doctor tell you get off your TRT and now your testosterone levels have plummeted? Can you imagine how much worse the recovery would be?
Yeah. Yeah. So real quick, you get a lot of heat because you have a similar opinion as I do about aromatase inhibitors. Men tend to develop neurological disorders like Parkinson's disease 7-fold more frequently than women until they go through menopause, and then women catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Estrogen has been shown to be protective against developing diseases like Parkinson's disease. Men have less estrogen than women, but there's this illusion out there that a man with no estradiol is okay because it's a woman's hormone, kind of like the humping the doorknob comment by the practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell men all the time, stay away from aromatase inhibitors.
Absolutely.
At all costs. So talk about, expand on it.
Yes, if you look at the clinical range, the clinical range will show like 0 to I think 35 or whatever it is. Now, if you think that clinical range makes sense and you think that 0 makes sense, take a milligram of Arimidex every single day for a number of days till your estrogen hits 0. And when you're ready to throw yourself off a bridge because you feel as bad as you will, you'll realize that 0 on the estradiol scale, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, that's first off. Estradiol is protective of about the guys that are getting on TRT looking for all these benefits. Estradiol is responsible for probably half of them. The Alzheimer's, the Parkinson's disease, the osteoporosis, the arthritis, the cardiovascular protection, the bone mineral density, the visceral fat
response.
Exactly. That is estradiol. Okay. You're getting the benefits by raising your levels of testosterone. Some of it converts to estradiol, and the estradiol exerts those protective effects. If you have a concussion, a TBI, brain injury, your brain will create more estradiol because it is neuroprotective. Okay, so imagine if you're taking a compound that is lowering the amount of estradiol in your brain while it's desperately trying to create some to protect it. That seems a little bit counterintuitive. The other thing too is that estradiol in a man is not really considered to be an endocrine hormone. The reason being, if you take a woman, estradiol is created in the ovaries. Thyroid is created from the thyroid. In men, testosterone is created in the testicles. What's the gland in a man that creates estradiol? We don't have one. All estradiol is aromatized from testosterone. Okay, it has to be converted from testosterone into estradiol. If you take the testosterone away, we can't create any estradiol on our own. Okay, we will have no estradiol. The serum levels themselves for a man on TRT are pretty much meaningless unless you suspect a deficiency. Now, I'm going to give you a perfect analogy. I was telling Carl about this analogy before the show. Imagine if you have a swimming pool and the swimming pool is covered. You know that there's water in the swimming pool, but you're desperately trying to figure out how much water is in the swimming pool. And let's pretend that swimming pool has a small little leak. So you say, okay, I'm going to put a bucket by this leak and I'm going to collect water overnight, given amount of time. And in the morning, I'm going to calculate how much water leaked in the bucket, by the hour, so let's say I'm going to collect 12 hours worth of leak. I got 2 liters of water, therefore, blah, blah, blah. It's the rate of leakage is this much. Can you therefore tell how much is in the swimming pool? No, you can't, right? When you are measuring estradiol, because the estradiol is converted into tissue and not in the serum, you're only measuring a little bit of it that leaks back into the serum. Okay, so testosterone itself is made in the testicles and then travels through the body in the serum, and then it delivers the testosterone to the tissue. So if you measure your serum, you measure your blood, you're going to see an accurate representation of how much testosterone is in there. But then once it gets into the tissue and converts then into estradiol, the estradiol now is in the tissue. You're only going to see the little bit that leaks back into the serum. So if you're going to measure that amount that leaks back, it's like my analogy with the pool. It's a meaningless test. It tells you nothing. Now, if you measure the amount that leaks back and there's almost none, so imagine I do my thing with my leak in my pool and I go the next day in the bucket, like, hey, nothing leaked in my bucket. I know there's a leak. That could imply that there's maybe very, very little in my pool. It's a concern. Same thing with the estradiol. We will measure, or when I say we, the physicians I deal with will measure testosterone if they suspect a deficiency. You know, so your total testosterone is at 900 nanograms per deciliter, and your estradiol is at 12. That's a problem. That means something's going on. You may have a deficiency. Believe it or not, there's a lot of guys on our Facebook group who tried desperately to get their issues, estradiol issues, figured out. I actually had to supplement with exogenous estradiol to bring their estradiol levels up to something that made sense, and then their issues went away. The big thing we hear in the bro science forums are guys needing an aromatase inhibitor because they say, I have E2 issues. And in every single case, and when I say in every single case, I mean this quite literally, in every single frickin' case, it's the same thing. You need to keep your hormone levels stable. If you're on a once weekly shot, you have a peak on your Monday when you do your shot. Over the course of the week, it goes down, 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 down. And the next week, another big peak, and it goes down, down, down. Okay. While these things are fluctuating, you're not going to feel well. Guys incorrectly call these estradiol related or E2 related issues. What they do is they take an aromatase inhibitor, which prevents the amount of estradiol that's converted from testosterone. It'll not prevent the conversion, but it will severely restrict that conversion. So instead of having big peaks with estradiol, you'll have smaller ones because now you're keeping that under control. But that in itself is going to cause health issues across the board because your brain needs the estradiol, your cardiovascular system needs the estradiol, and whatever else, and you're going to be now lowering that estradiol in your body, lowering the protective effects in your body. The trick here is to increase your injection frequency to a point where your hormones feel stable. You will no longer have these E2 issues, as they call them. And very oftentimes we see men that do not have their levels high enough. So just yesterday, I was working with a guy. He was dealing with a clinic in Ontario that had him on 16 milligrams a day of testosterone, which isn't even 100 milligrams a week. It's like I think it was like 85 or 90 milligrams a week. It's basically chemical castration for men. I was looking at his labs. He's got a testosterone deficiency. The clinic wants to give him an aromatase inhibitor to lower the estradiol, saying, "Oh, your issue must be estradiol." But his estradiol was like at 35 picograms per deciliter, which is adequate, perfectly adequate. They want to lower that by giving him a milligram of Arimidex every 4 days. So they're just so completely deranged that they don't realize, hey, we need to up this guy's levels higher. He's got a deficiency, and we need to increase his injection frequency. He had an SHBG of 12. SHBG of 12 is so low that by default you want to give daily shots. So it's incompetence by doctors that don't know any better. And it's the bro science guys. A lot of them are self-medicating and they're trying this. Like, I absolutely need an AI. I absolutely need this, and my estradiol is causing all these issues. And it's mostly just complete bro science. There is nothing in the literature to support it. Every study that we see where they raise testosterone in man, where estradiol was also raised, only shows benefits. We don't see any harm other than, like we were talking before, maybe a little bit of testicle atrophy, some acne, or whatever else. So do not touch aromatase inhibitors. If you feel that you need an aromatase inhibitor, you're either taking too much test, not enough test, you're not injecting frequently enough, or very often it's poor liver function. So get your AST and ALT.
Also fat. So Katrina Miller says her husband had an estrogen level of 100. He was put on an aromatase inhibitor. But before you go to an aromatase inhibitor, you can address some other things. Increase your zinc intake, number one. Vitamin C has been shown to have anti-aromatase effects. If you have a lot of body fat, so since the aromatase enzyme resides in body fat, if you have a lot of body fat, by reducing body fat will reduce the conversion of androgens to estrogens. The other thing to consider is inflammation. If you look at the cytochrome cascade, which are the major enzymes made in your liver, and this goes to your comment about liver. If you look at that, the precursor to aromatase is cyclooxygenase, or COX. COX-1 and COX-2 are the creators of inflammation. We hear about COX-1 and COX-2 inhibitors, NSAIDs or COX-2 inhibitors. So when you reduce inflammation, you reduce the production of cyclooxygenase, you reduce the donor enzyme that produces aromatase. So getting your body's inflammation under control will stop your testosterone from being siphoned off into estradiol. There's so many things you can do that are healthier and address the systemic problem than just going right to an aromatase inhibitor.
Yeah. You were mentioning zinc. A lot of guys will say, oh, zinc is good. I guess I'll take 100 milligrams of zinc because zinc is good.
No.
Guys, there is a such thing as too much zinc, and there's guys that are hyper responders to zinc. I happen to be one of them. If I take 50 milligrams of zinc a day, it'll eventually crash my estrogen, and I feel like crap. My libido and erections are absolutely gone.
That's how powerful it is. Yeah.
It's very powerful. 25 milligrams is typically good for, I'd say, 90%, if not more than that. Katrina, that was talking about her husband. Was it Katrina?
Yes. No.
Talking about her husband.
Yes.
At 100. So, Katrina, if your husband's estradiol is at 100 picograms per milliliter, and let's say he's on testosterone replacement therapy, and his total testosterone is at 1400 or 1500, that 100 is fine. Okay. The doctors I use don't even measure estradiol anymore unless they suspect a deficiency. If there's
you're saying it's sensible ratios to be observed.
Absolutely. But if they have ruled out a deficiency, they stop measuring it. They don't care what it is. They just want to make sure, because the whole action of aromatase is a self-regulating mechanism. Now, if your husband has PGML of 100 and he's not on TRT and his total testosterone is 200, okay, there's something going on there. I would assume the guy would have to be pretty fat. Okay. The other thing too about the liver, measure your AST and ALT. Those are very good indicators of liver damage. Estrogens are metabolized in the liver. So to fix that, you can take milk thistle. It's fantastic for repairing the liver. A lot of people these days have fatty liver due to a poor diet. You can take one of the greatest protocols that was back in the bodybuilding ages from like the 50s. They would take 1,500 milligrams of inositol and 1,500 milligrams of choline each every day for 30 days. The stuff is dirt cheap. It will completely squeeze the fat out of your liver and improve your liver function.
Katrina commented and said he's on a pellet and his total testosterone was 1,500. Real quick.
There you go.
And is it even important? Bob wants to know, can you please discuss how to increase free testosterone?
Okay, so to Katrina, if your husband's at 1,500 total T and his E2 is 100, do not take an aromatase inhibitor.
Yeah,
if you're feeling off, increase injection frequency. I would not take an aromatase inhibitor. How do you increase free testosterone? Okay, now is this from a guy who's natural or is this a guy on testosterone?
Hard to say. He didn't say.
If you're on testosterone replacement therapy and you want to increase your free testosterone, guess what? You up your dose. It's that simple, and you will increase your free T. If you're, obviously, if you've got very, very high SHBG, again, there are things you can do to modulate that to get it to drop a little bit. You don't want to get it too low. Some guys with crazy high SHBG will take Proviron. Again, I don't really like playing with SHBG too much. I would rather just up the dose, and you'll wind up with increased free testosterone. On the natural side, again, my specialty, if you will, is more guys on TRT.
So he's on TRT. He's at 240 milligrams a week. What about looking at estrogen then? If your free T is low, is it worth looking at estradiol?
Bob, can you comment real quick? Do you know what your SHBG is and what your free testosterone is? And if you have got your estradiol, you can throw that in as well. If you want to comment really quick, I'm watching it. Mike tried dinosaur is concerned about liver.
Tried dinosaur to concerned about liver.
He's concerned about liver.
Mike tried. I don't know. I don't think that's what he meant.
No, I think it was a typo. Again, if we do not see a deficiency, the doctors I deal with, and I deal with many of them, they will just completely stop. That's okay. You're not deficient. We stop measuring that. We don't care where it goes. They don't care. The guys that claim to be over aromatizers, I'm a big high aromatizer. 99.99999% of guys are not high aromatizers. A high aromatizer is a guy on TRT and they get his E2 measured and it's like 400. That would be an over aromatized. That would mean,
Right.
okay, this guy has an issue.
Right.
Okay, 100, 150 even, you're fine. It's a non-concern.
I'm trying to make out what he said. He said free testosterone is HBG. I think that's supposed to be SHBG is about 87, low dose. That is concerned about liver.
Okay. Bob, there's a difference between free testosterone and SHBG. I don't know if you have both those values or if you only have the free testosterone, but on 240 milligrams a week, I'd be surprised your free testosterone is going to be that low unless you're. I would assume that 87 that he's talking about was his SHBG.
BG, yeah.
Yeah.
Bees knees. This is the last question. I'm sorry. This is it. Cystatic C and CGT are much better indicators of kidney and liver function. ALT, AST can be affected by number of factors, main one being weight training.
I don't think possible. Maybe I haven't seen that. Again, I'm learning stuff every single day, so I'd have to go look that one up and ask some questions.
All right, look, this has been a fantastic show, especially because we had so much participation from the audience. I want to thank the audience, first of all, because you guys bring the flavor and give so much better content to the show with your questions. I want to thank Danny Bossa. Danny, plug your where people can find more of you.
Yes, I do a lot of work. Again, all of this stuff I do for hormones and whatnot, I do for free. I do have some guys that contact me sometimes by email, wanting to do like a kind of a video call. I don't want to call it a consult. I just call it an opinion-only discussion. I actually have to make them sign a disclaimer to say, look, I'm not a physician, but you can tell me about how you feel. I can ask you a bunch of questions, find out your protocol, look at your labs, and give you some suggestions that you can then pass along to your doctor to say, hey, what we've been doing has not been working. Could we potentially try something like this? I've asked someone who's knowledgeable, and if the doctor signs off on it, he puts his.
I think they call people like you a patient's advocate. So I think that you could talk to you and give them some suggestions that they can then bring to their doctor.
Correct, but the doctor still has to make the script,
the decision. Right.
Okay. I even had someone from the Quebec medical boards investigate me, and I had to clarify I do not prescribe. I educate. They still have to go to their doctor, and once their doctor has signed that script, the doctor is taking responsibility. Okay. Anyone that wanted to contact me on that regard, I'm more than happy to help. I do a couple of them a week when time permits. My email address is Daniel Bossa, so not Danny, but Daniel Bossa @hotmail.com. I do a lot of work for a YouTube channel called TRT and Hormone Optimization. I've got a ton of videos there, but there's also a number of physicians that I've interviewed there as well, a number of different providers, medical professionals that have done lectures on a number of subjects. There's so much material on that YouTube channel that if you watch all those videos, you'd know everything there is to know about TRT and then some. And we have a Facebook group as well, which I am one of the admins, with same name, TRT and Hormone Optimization. It's free to join. When you join it, it asks 3 questions that you need to answer. If you don't answer those questions, you're not going to get in. And once you're in, you can post questions, or if you want to post studies, you want to post things that's happened to you, you want to get some guidance. A lot of us are very knowledgeable on it, and there's also some physicians in there that are very, very up to date on this stuff that'll chime in. Sometimes a lot of you are just looking for a doctor in a particular state or a particular province. I have a list of recommended providers that I've personally vetted that I know that they know what they're doing. Several more in the US and very, very few in Canada. Unfortunately, Canada's kind of sucked on that regard, to say the least. That's kind of it.
Okay. Thanks for being here today, Danny.
All good. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, of course. And then we will see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for being here today. Please share the show. You never know whose life you'll change by sharing the show. It could be one person that listens and goes, man, I didn't know about that. So please share the show, and we'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Take care.